Okay, so totally dry now, and it's had a bit of a spray job right the way over the top just to have a look round, and we're checking it for seams and cracks and lumps and bumps, and to be honest, everything that's horrible in the plastic as well. And as you can see, we're actually looking pretty darn good. Happy how it is now that we're seamless and everything else. So with the actual fuselage section done for the moment, we can put this off to one side. It will be completely sanded down again and repolished. I'll probably put a coat of primer onto it before we do the rescribing and riveting, but that's for another day. So over to the wing sections. I said before, the wing sections, to be honest, they're not too bad. They're nice and solid, and we've done a little bit of cleanup just around, just to see how it all is in there. But what we can actually do now is start to get the actual engine sections down in there together. So again, it does take a little bit of fettling to get these all down in here, but basically you're just going to come along and you're going to glue these down into position. So from a point of view of getting these to fit, it's not as straightforward as you might think, because as you can probably see, it's not brilliant down in here of how it actually goes. The one thing I did sort of learn from this, if you give a little bit of a sand to these front sides and just take them down a bit, it sits a little bit deeper and goes through. But again, it's this thing of test fitting. You can see literally straight away, how good is that compared to what it was before? All right, then we've got this one at the back. But before we do that, because obviously we've cleaned up down in here, we just want to clean up and sharpen up. Obviously we've done a bit of filler work down in here as well. So we just sand this back. Again, most of this is because of sink marks in the plastic here rather than anything else. And I know this is dirty because they've been doing other things with it, but you get the general feel. Needs a little bit more work, but it's halfway there. All right. So again, it's just one of those ones, getting in here, cleaning this up. You can see it doesn't take too much. It's probably going to need a smidge of filler over the top just to polish this in, but actually that's not too bad at all. So with that one in and looking better, we can check how it fits at the rear. So the front one we're happy with, but the rear one, again, it's just not sitting right. So we'll do exactly the same again, just down on these edges, just sand them down just on this part here. And it will just help lift up the area, because what you want this is to have a really, really nice fit. All right, and there we go. That's actually very, very nice. All right, so we just sit that back there now, and you can see that sitting in there really nice at that end. We're pretty good at the front end, so that's very nice. When you're done, you end up with this, and I've glued this one in already. All right, so this one's in here. But the thing is, you do, when you come along, you go to put this in, it doesn't fit, nowhere near it. So what you need to do is get in here and open up this hole, and if you look at the differences in the size, you can probably see it's quite a big difference. Also, the big thing is, you can see how far back this is? No, it needs to be right the way at the front. So to be honest, this is just sanding and test fitting, sanding and test fitting until we come along and it fits. All right, so what you're looking for is the back end to be flush with the rear, which is fine, and we're looking for the front. All right, now I've already been in here and sanded, again, a little bit just around this area, but what you're doing is when it doesn't fit, just see where it is and then just test fit in. And that's probably about as good as I'm going to get. So we've got a nice seam all the way down in here of how this looks and everything else. Also, you might notice there's this panel line that runs down in here. Don't be fooled into that's where it goes, because if it does, it doesn't match up here. This is perfectly in position, but you can see where that line is. So don't take any notice of these sort of so-called sort of cheat lines to show you where it goes, because it doesn't. But once that's in, it's actually not a bad fit. So that's really, really nice. And also it gives a little bit of strength again to the actual wings once these are in. So what we'll do is we'll just come in with some glue and we'll pop around and glue these all in. So chances are, because we want the best possible fit for this, we're just going to come in with a little bit of pressure, just like that. You can see that actually that's not a bad fit all the way around. We're just going to take some Contactia glue, and then we're just going to come in and we're just going to let it go in. Again, you might notice I'm not using extra thin pretty much anywhere on this because it's just not right. So you might notice big gap on this side. This is because this side is being pulled at the moment. So we're going to let that side dry, and glue in position like that because it's really nice. Give it a good couple of hours to go off. Then we'll come along, we'll clamp this side, and then we'll put this one in as well. All right, so that works very well. Again, make sure you get the right sights on these, but these just need a little bit of fettling still just to come in. They're a little bit proud. I think it's to do, there's a little bit of flash on here. So we'll just smooth these out to get a nicer join on the front. And again, it's going to be one of these ones where 10 minutes of test fitting and playing, you can see that's sitting a little bit proud on all fronts at the moment, will make a world of difference. So again, we've got a coarse sander. We just place this down and take a little bit of height out of this. Trying to reduce the height. Then we can come back in. And you can see already that's making a world of difference. So again, we'll just take a little bit more height. So look at it from both parts. So this side on this side is not too bad at all. This side's just a little bit, and again, looking at it, very similar to the other ones. I think it's just this area here. So all we do is we're just going to come in with a sander. And we're just going to deepen that just a little bit. Then we test fit, and wow, just a couple of swipes. Look at the difference that makes. All right, so again, these lines look like they're slightly out, but they're not too bad. But again, that's not too bad in there now. So I'm thinking a little bit of height out of the tail. So this will reduce the height difference between the front and the back. And look, with every time we make a slight difference, you can see how better that's getting. Still need a little bit more at the back. And again, it's just this thing, sand a bit, fit it, sand a bit, fit it. You can see with every time, getting better. So we just need a little bit more of this area here. Just to bring the height down a little bit. And you can see now how that's actually looking pretty good. I still think a little tiny bit out the back. This side's looking very nice. It's inside that's the problem. And again, I'm thinking just a little bit more off this back edge. Look at that. And there we go. We're pretty much there now. So again, test fitting, dry fitting as we call it, and all the rest of it. That really is quite a secret of working on really bad kits, because for 2 minutes it takes to just test fit and do that can save you hours of filler work. You know, because if you did think, oh, we'll just put it on and going to fill it, you know, that could be a nightmare. If we can do it like here, and also multi-staging gluing. So like we've done with this one here, do one side of it, let it glue, let it get nice and solid and firm, give it a good couple of hours. Tomorrow it'll even be any better. All right, then come the other side and then just pop it down. And then that way, if it's got a slight rock to it, it will just pull itself level without the need to obviously go in there and use filler again. And then obviously all the cleanup with filler, the shrinkage of filler, and obviously the troubles you might have with painting afterwards and stuff like that going over filler. So spend 10 minutes doing this will save you hours doing filler work and all the rest of it that can come with it. So highly, highly recommend doing it. So with that said, we will get obviously the other engine nacelle done. We'll get this one done correctly and all the rest of it, and we can get those in. Then we've got to work on the flaps and the doors and the various things on this one, but again, it's looking pretty nicely. So what we'll do before we do all of that stuff, we're going to get it all re-scribed. So we're going to get all of these together. We'll get them all scene checked and everything else that it's all good, and then we can come back next, good clean out, and it's going to be re-scribing, re-riveting time, get all the details into this kit that are going to make it pop. Once we've got those all in, then we can think about actually starting to get some of it together. So after that, it'll be wing spars. We can get those mounted into this one, get the wings mounted onto it, get the tails mounted onto it, and then we can think about going into paint. Okay, so we're pushing on. So on the back of the filler job, I've just got a final smear of filler just down in here. This is just a little bit of the old water-based modelling grey putty from AK. Just a tiny little smears just in these ones, very, very thin coat, and then we'll polish that one up and that'll be all set, ready to go. We've also done the tail planes, so these are now put in. We've squared these up. To be honest, they are an awful fit, so I ended up with just cutting off the lugs, sticking them in as best I could, and then we've popped in here with some sprue goo just to weld these all up. But now we are in position and we're okay with that one. So that's good, even though I think I've made a bit of a thing. No, we're not. We're okay. It's all right. I thought I'd done two lefts then, but we're okay. So with that done, that's sorted, we can turn our attention down here onto sort of riveting and scribing the entire model. So what I've basically done is I've just been around and just popped in. I'll find my scriber. So literally what we've done is we've just been popping in, and to be honest, the panel lines, they're a little bit sort of rough and awkward. So first of all, get a good old sand right the way over to smooth all of these out. All right, so give us a nice, better texture for working on. So medium sander right the way over, just like this. So you can see the sort of panel lines there and everything. Then we are literally just coming along, putting the blade down, and we're just cleaning and dragging out. And we're just taking a little wisp of it with it. All right, so literally every panel line just getting a fresh new cut just down in here. And again, you can just follow along with the line that you've got, just take your time in it. And once you've got one pass in, just coming back with a slightly heavier one, just like so. All right, just clean all those out. That'll give us a sharper, more nicer line to follow. Then we've been doing this. So hopefully you can see it down in here. I'll get a little bit of dust on this. We might be able to see what we're doing on here. You can see now we have come in. So what we've been using is a little bit of this stuff. So this is just Re-scribing tape. It's by Brevco sell it. Obviously it's display stuff, but you can see it's got the little lines in it. So that's great. So what I do is we've been popping it down on here, and I've been using it as a guide because obviously these are all in 1mm increments down in here, and then I've marked where I want the panel lines to go, just down in here like this. And then we've been coming along using our little tool, so we just place on the side. And to be honest, I have tape normally running down in here, but I've taken it off because I've moved it over to here. Normally this one is over here, so it squares them all up. So you can just look down and you can say, right, I need to be, you know, on the dotted line, say here, it's going to be down to the bottom, and then we just have it at the end, and then we've just been coming across and then just putting those in. So for this, we're using 0.75 diameter. So we've got twin. So this is just a twin one, which is quite nice. So that gives you a nice offset. And then obviously we've got a single as well. So the way we've been doing this is we've got doubles coming down, which are sort of following the formers as they're coming down, or the ribs, and then we've been just sort of going down with those. And then we've got singles going across. Now, I don't actually have any clue if this is correct or not. All right. So what I've actually done is I've taken some clues from the Lancaster, which we built before, took a photo of it. All right, and then I can just look at it and see roughly how these go. So it's got twos down the side, it's got singles in this area here, the big area across the top of the wing, it's obviously got doubles running in, and that's roughly where I've taken my sort of cues from doing this particular one. And then again, I've got it down here for the main fuselage, and we are copying pretty much identical to what the Lancaster got, purely because I don't know, and I can't find any reference which shows them in there. Now, they could be puttied over, they might be smoothed over, they might be flush, I don't know. But for a point of view of scale, it just gives a nicer effect. From here, looking at my 48 scale Lancaster, it's probably around about 5-6 feet away from me. As I see it, probably more like 4 to 5 actually. I can't see the riveting on it anyway. So it's one of those things. It's only when you get close to it, and then from a scale point of view, I think it's just a little bit more palatable. It breaks it down, stops it looking a little bit like a toy. And because we haven't got anything like stressed skin or anything else to break it up on here, we're going to be reliant on weathering, which obviously will get caught in the actual panel lines, gives us a little bit of texture, then we can, you know, fade it back, give it some textures, things like that right the way through. So that's literally how we've been running on here. So I will carry on giving this in here. So we've done the edges, we've done these ones down on the wings here, as you can see. So we've got some doubles running in here, and again in this section in the middle we've got more of a grid system going over so forth and so on. It's a long job. I've probably spent the last sort of hour just doing the top of that wing. So again, if you break it down, it's probably 2 or 3 days work just doing this. So I'm going to get the wings done. We get the tails done, so they're in. Once these are done and somewhat together and we're all good, then we can work on the engines for it. We'll get those done. This then should be totally dried off. So then obviously on the fuselage, what we can do is polish these up, get it polished up, sanded, re-scribe the entire thing. There's a couple of big nasty dents and things in here we spoke about before. We need to take care of those. Then again, this one will get re-scribed, re-riveted right the way through. With that done, we can literally get the clear parts all onto this one, get it masked up, and then obviously we can get the wing sections into this one, and then technically be ready for paint and primer. And that is down the end. We've also done a few other jobs. So I have cleaned up all the wheels. The gear is all technically done now and all the rest of it. I've cleared up all the clear parts as well. So when these ones come in, these will just pop in like so and be coming and being a nice fit. What we're going to do with these as well, I've decided we're going to put some plastic card on the inside. So one, it'll act as little tabs, so it'll clip down and it'll have something just to clip into just down on here. So we're not so much reliant on just, well, putty and PVA glue holding this in. And also for things like we've got the rear part of the canopy joins the front part of the canopy here. What we're going to do is put a plastic card, little bar of it, using the thin little strips like this, as it is in real life. So it's got framework in there as well, but also it'll be a way of joining these two halves together as a good solid join that then obviously we can sand and take care of any sort of things on there as well, just to bring it to, you know, a little bit more solid for when we're getting it in. Again, then that way, because it's got a little bit of framework inside there, the idea being is the plastic won't, if you push down, want to spread. Or if you pinch it in too much, it should be solid and hold it in its own way. So we're going to do that to it as well. So that'll be a little bit of a challenge. That's going to be quite a bit of work to get that on. But I think long term, one of easier fitting in there, but also it'll be more solid because it is very, very flimsy. So we want to take care of it on that one. So what I'm going to do is carry on re-scribing, re-riveting right the way over this entire thing, get it all sorted. Then obviously we can think about if you want to painting up the wings separate, things like that. But to be honest with you, this joint on the wings is a little bit gnarly, as we know. We've made wing spars, which is just 2 bits of plastic card, you know. So what we'll do is we'll end up laminating those together, gluing those together, cutting and fitting and shaping. These are all good. And then once these come in and go through, which will be something like, let's put one through. You can see. All right, so these will be through. The wings then can just slot in, but at the moment they're too big. We need to cut them back, otherwise it will come through the wheel well. So we need to get those measured up as well. But for the moment, it's just literally getting the riveting done. So long old job, bear with me, and I'll get cracking on with it. Okay, so I just wanted to point this out. So that way, when it looks really bad, I can say it's not me, it's the kit. So one of the problems we've actually come across is that the actual wings are different. You would think they would roughly be the same. Now, again, this may be something I'm not aware of. I have had a quick look in my little book in here, and in here we have got some diagrams with some, you know, obviously pictures and stuff like that of the actual layout of how they are, which are these ones, which they're very, very basic, and I don't know what it is. But one of the areas that I thought I would happen, I would take the tape that we've got here, and we would just take it off of this one and transfer it onto here. So let me show you just what we've got. Or the problem that we have. Just grab my glasses a minute so I can view you properly. So this one comes from this wing. So if you look where the panel lines are, I've got down in here, basically this follows exactly where they are. So you see this 2-line one here. This is because it's a double on each side of here. There's a double on each side of that one, and there's a double on side of that one. And you can see how these all line up, no problem at all. Problem I've got is that when I transfer this one over, so again, we've got to do it somewhat reversed because of obviously how it is. We come along and we've got double down the bottom. Okay, so that lines up very nicely. But if you look at the top now, the double line is not showing in between. It's stepping out. And this is by me pulling it slightly down. So if we go fully onto the middles as it was all the way, so if we say, okay, we're in the middle of the panel line here, now you can see the problem I've got. This one down the bottom is perfect, showing good. But now, look, this one is well above and this one is even further above. So they don't actually marry across. So when we're trying to do the same on this one to this one, it's coming back and biting. But again, hopefully you can see down in here, I'm going to catch it in some of the light. You get some of the riveting, not brilliant. There we go. You can see a little bit of what we've done down in here. To be honest, this wing over on this one seems a lot nicer. The scribing's nicer, the actual panel lines look squarer. But again, it's another thing where, again, we often talk about how the differences that are made with CAD and stuff and mirroring stuff across and copying across. And we've spoken to, you know, Pranji and all the rest of it on here saying about how he goes about it. And he does say, you know, you can mirror some stuff over and obviously you're going to get the same on the other side. Was this way? Is this the most accurate kit that actually the panel lines on one wing are slightly different to the other side? Or is it actually a fault with it? I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm just a modeler and I'm trying to make the best of it. But what this actually means is that this is pretty much irrelevant now. So I'm going to have to use a Mk./1 eyeball to try and mirror up what we've done on the other side. Yes, I can use it as a rough guesstimate of where they are, but it's not going to help as in accuracy wise. Now I was really hoping that all I was going to have to do is, as we've done here, is just flip this over, repeat it and go through the measures of it. Unfortunately, no. So what we've got to do is completely do it again. So I will take a guide off of this one down in here, and then obviously we'll just go ahead about putting these back on. But again, a lot of this is going to be now a Mk./1 eyeball, the exact way of doing it. Apart from that, it's going really, really well. But I just thought I'd show you that little tidbit of information of how the wings are different. You can always tell when you're having fun when you're absolutely covered. I've just taken the apron off and I'm still covered. So we are pushing on really, really nicely, and I've done quite a bit. So re-scribing of the wings is completely done now. Very, very happy with how these look. You can probably just see it just showing through. And again, we had loads of problems, but you know, we have sort of overcome them. Also, we've checked the engines and we've been round and we've checked them for seams and gaps and things like that. And they've gone in really, really nicely, and we've sanded and polished. Center seam in here. And again, I don't know about riveting work on this. I'm gonna have to look into it, but that's really nice. The engine ones as well. These are in. Looking very nice as well. Just got to do a little bit more sanding and blending work around these top edges, as you can see here, but they should sand in. But what I want to do is put the cowl flaps and things together first so I can see exactly how they are as it's making its way through. Fuselage halves, as you can see, we are seamless. God, it's like it's one of those things. So anyway, we've started the big job of actually re-scribing the entire fuselage at the moment, which I've pretty much almost finished. But there's a couple of areas which can be, you know, a little bit of a handful. So one of the biggest difficult parts of this is it's not all my fault, but you might notice it's very trenchy. This is before I've even been here. All right. Because they're trenchy, they're quite soft. And obviously you can see this one here coming down doesn't really do a lot. So it is just a question of literally just tiny little motions just down in here, and we can sharpen up and crispen up some of these lines just down in there. And again, when you're re-scribing, it is this thing. You just take your time, pop your blade in, and just gently go at it. Don't do one big pull, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're literally just going to rip too much material with it. You're better off doing very nice little light strokes, you know, and we just pull this through and we go back and forth and just until it looks nice. Also, the thing is, we're doing these little light strokes like this, is that you're more likely to follow the panel line that's down here. God, this one's rough. It feels like a play in a field. All right, but you can literally feel how it actually goes. And again, with this particular one, it's got a push and a pull hook sort of on this. So if you wanted to, you can come in and you can actually do it forward. So if I pop along here, hopefully you can see, I'll just take it to the end. You can actually pull off quite a bit of swath and stuff, and you can do it forwards. And this is literally just the thing, going round, sort of just trying to get in these panels, putting them all back in, and trying to make them look, to be honest, halfway decent. And that is the problem. Unfortunately, a lot of these panel lines aren't, and some of them are just a little bit woeful. We've redone down the back here as well, and we've been in here, and then again afterwards we just give it a quick light sand over just to make sure we're all happy with it, and we are good to go. One of the problem areas you can get though is the ones coming over the top. So you might notice we've done one here, and we've done down in there, and we've done a bit down the back here, and we've put these in. This will need lots of riveting and stuff in there as well. But a lot of it is, if we show you up here, there's me putting horrible bits all over this. So you've got a large area and it's on a little bit of a curve, but this one's quite flat in the middle. So that's when I like to use a razor saw for putting in panel lines. All right. So it's got a nice fine blade into it. So again, you could try and come up, and it wouldn't be too much of a problem on here just to put this in and do it. But the other way you can do it is just to drag this down. So we've got a panel line starting over here. So we get the blade in there to start with, and we just make a few little tiny cuts just to give us a little bit of depth now to actually put the blade into when we go over. All right, so again, we're just trying to see exactly where it is, and then in a nice strong pull, and as we're pulling, we're lining up now with the panel line on the other side, and then we drag it down and we go through that said panel line, and there we go. That's got that in, which is straight because you're just in a pull action and it lines up with down here. Once you've done it once, you can come in and you should follow the original. All right, and again, just drop it down into the panel line. And you can do it literally just like that. Now, if you wanted to, you could just come in with your blade and you can just come in and just, again, same type of thing, nicely back and forth until you got the panel line you so desire. Now, the reason for using the razor saw coming over here and not re-scribing is purely because we've got super glue in this area and there's quite a bit of filler. What we don't want to do is start ripping all of that out. With a saw, you actually cut your way through it without actually causing any damage and suddenly getting any sort of lumps and bumps. And the same goes to these ones across the top here. And again, just trying to work out where they are. So this one is about here. And to be honest, because we've got lots of filler on this one, we're just going to pull this one up. All right. And then we're just coming across to where the other one is. And we go down. And we just put in the panel line just at the top, just like that. And then again, we can just come back in here now. Now we know what we've gone through and we've sort of got a little bit of a channel going on. We can just tidy these up. And I know doing it freehand is one of those things that's a little bit scary, but actually once you've done it a couple of times, you sort of get the hang of it. It's not too bad at all. So we've got this one coming up here. And again, this isn't a brilliant line down in here. So we're just going to pull this up. And again, nice and gentle. And again, don't be ripping at this. We've got the other one that's just down in here. So I'll put my finger on it just a little bit. So that's where we want to go. This is where we're going. All right, so you line the back of the blade up is in the right place. So now when we're dragging, we should end up exactly where we want to be. And you can see we've just turned up exactly where we want it. And that is how we go about doing it. And then again, we can just come back in. A little bit of cleanup now. And because we've already got a little bit of a saw line, even if there's a little bit of something hard in there that doesn't want to give, we can just pop back in there. But if it's soft and we're happy, then we can just continue now with this one and come all the way through. And this is particularly not nice at all on this side because the panel line basically disappears. So again, just little motions. And once we got a little bit there, we can just come along and we can put them all in. And that's those panel lines all in there. I've already done the ones down the back and everything just like that. All right. So again, just take your time when you're in these ones and methodically just working your way through them all. But what you don't want to do is make them too deep. If you make them too deep, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with trenches, and there's nothing worse than panel lines that are overdone. All right. So with that done, we can turn our attention to riveting. So we've got a twin down in here for anywhere that's got a big areas perhaps in the middle. So you know you're going to have sort of runners down in here. They have the twin ones, but obviously you're going to have heavier duty rivets down in here on bulkheads and things like that. All right. So again, that's the areas where we want to tackle it with a single. And again, if you wanted to, and we're just going to work this way, I'm going to do it in a sort of mathematical type of way of perhaps doing the lowers of every panel line. So we're not going to put it on the top of the panel line, we're going to put it to the bottom. So we just come in with the riveting wheel. Obviously you could use a guide, but this, I'm looking down on this and I can see my distance between the outer metal, the inner. So I'm going about in the middle of the actual panel line with this. And normally I have my heavier glasses on. And then we're just looking straight down over the top, seeing where the gap is and all the rest of it. And then we just walk the panel line really straight and just keeping it in line with the actual low, and that will put in our row of rivets onto this. All right, so then we go to the next area down. And again, keeping the similar distance, nice pressure. And we're just doing this panel as well. We're not going down the entire length of it or anything else like that. that's exactly how we do it. So we do that one, and we'll just do all of these just down in this section. Also, I find working in sections is better. All right, so we do this one, and then we're just going to walk down on here. You can see when you get the hang of it, you can pick up your space, and we put it down in there. And then looking at it, you can say, well, look, this is a really big panel in here, and we haven't got anything in the middle. Perhaps you might want to put some lighter double ones through it, as well as if you've actually got the runners running down the side. Chances are it's probably got it in real life, all right? But for the moment, we're just trying to keep it a little bit more simple. So again, last step, we just do this one up here. And this one, though, I'm going to carry it along the entire edge of where it would be, because I'm assuming there would be one just down in there. And I know it's very difficult for you to see the actual riveting, but again, don't be pushing down on it too hard. Don't be ramming it down in there and all the rest of it, because otherwise your riveting is going to be way too deep. Don't forget, it should be subtle. Some areas you might not see it, some areas do. You want enough for your weathering. So if you want all the riveting to show up with a wash, you're going to do it a little bit heavier. If you want it to be more of it's a subtle mark, as it is in real life, you want to go a little bit lighter. Anyway, I'm going to crack on and we'll get these done. The same time as this one's been going, I can just show you here, we've actually got the spars built and can go in now. All right, so we've got one just down in here. We've got one running along here. All right, so once it's done, then we can come along and we can just show you here, and we can actually pop, get this down to go in. Come on. Always the way, it's been working fine all morning. Actually, got it the wrong way around. This is why they do have a left and a right on mine, because again, you've had to trim it and allow it to make sure that it actually fits the wing. Top of the wing here is the top of the wing here. So again, if we just pop this one in, there we go. You can see, or hopefully you can see, we've actually got a really nice join on the top. Oh, I want close camera. Actually, not a bad join on the top of that wing. Just needs a little bit of maneuvement in there. The bottom, yeah, horrible, absolutely horrible. All right, we might be able to pull this out a little bit and actually pull this outwards into it. But again, if I pop the other one on, there we are for the first time with the wings on, and when they're in, it's actually not too bad. All right, so yes, slowly we are starting to come together, and obviously we've got the tails done as well, and they're going to come in here. So once we get this riveting done for the first time, we can actually think about getting it together, getting the wings on solid, glue them in, fill, shim, because it's going to be shims underneath, I imagine, get that sorted. Once that's done, we can get the clear parts installed into it, and weirdly enough, it's ready for paint.